What's up? What's up? What's up? Saturday Sports Countdown coming to you here in about 3 minutes. So I always have to get up and going on the stream a little bit earlier than TV and radio for all of you that know the drill. So you get to see us 3 minutes staring into the camera. How about that?
Well, just hoping it all holds up. We're going to have us all over the map over the next 3 or 4 days. I'm not sure where Luke's traveling. Where's he going, Brett?
I don't know if he's traveling anywhere.
There's no way he's staying at home. He can't stay at home for a New Year's.
I don't know where.
Who
knows, man?
He's got to be going. He's got to be going to that. Yeah,
he's
got to be going to that game.
Yep, yep. I don't know what y'all are going to do in a couple weeks when I'm gone. I guess just shut it down, I guess.
Replay one of the 38 other shows that we did that week, I guess. If they can't find enough of us talking right now, there's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. So, got some I know we criticized the bowls, but I didn't see them. I just saw a few plays last night. I was putting together a brand new bed all afternoon yesterday. I think it took me about 5 hours to put together. So I saw a few plays at A&M and USC. Thing started so daggum late, but USC came back and won. Man, that was a crazy ending to that game. Good Lord. But it was a good game, 35-31.
It tells you where the SEC is right now. I mean, the idea that we lost Oklahoma at home and they didn't have a single wide receiver coming in, and they're too deep.
And Navy, man. Whew. Lord have mercy. All right, so we got 1 minute, and we'll be ready to start the opener. We'll have 30 seconds. So 1 minute and 30 seconds, kind of like SpaceX. But yeah, I watched probably more of that second half of Oklahoma yesterday than I did anything. And I'm like, man, how did we blow a 21-10 lead to that team?
We did it.
That may have been the worst loss of the year.
That Missouri
that Missouri loss was terrible, but we were at home up 21-10 in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's bad enough.
On a very, very, I mean, that offense, you can't describe how bad that freaking offense is.
We're so much better in Missouri, though.
Oh, especially when their quarterback went out. And their quarterback went out.
I know it. Just get us over with.
All right, here we go.
Be done with it.
30 seconds. Yeah, no kidding.
Start basketball. Keep us in basketball. Let's play it all year round.
We're going to jump up there and surprise some people one day. 10 seconds. What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Glad that you joined us here on this Saturday morning. As you get started, it's a little bit gloomy outside, so we're going to have some rain today. So for all you sports fanatics, you can sit inside and watch sports all day. There'll be bowl games on, there'll be basketball on, and or you can put a bed together like I did for 5 or 6 hours yesterday. Whatever it is that you're called upon to do, feel free to do that. I'm gonna give you permission this morning. How about that? I'm sure I carry a lot of weight in your household on what you do. But anyway, we're glad that you joined us here. We'll have Luke join us a little bit later on. So we'll be here for you 2 hours, like we always are. JR Sports Bar and Grill, can't thank them enough for their longtime partnership going into 2025, another year with them and Sunshine Heating and Air, Kevin Keel and his group down there in Dayville. Really appreciate what they do for our programming and allowing us to come to you. Randy, it's a good Saturday morning for us to talk about all kind of stuff. I mean, I'm going to try to stay away from the portal as much as I can. I'm sick of it. I'm just tired of talking about it. So, hey.
You don't have an answer for it. You may as well just stop talking about it until leadership stands up and makes a decision on what they want to do. And as soon as enough Larranagas out there complain and stop coaching, and it feels like that's the only way this thing's going to get fixed. So, yeah, I mean, we may as well. Now, when it comes to our school and its importance to what we're doing right now, it's worth talking about, because you've got to pony up a lot of money to even have a chance to get some of these guys that we're getting. And luckily, somebody in the background for Auburn's ponying up a lot. And the collectives collected plenty to pass around out there to these young guys, Brett, because that's the only way you get them.
Yeah, that's it. Again, we'll take your comments on YouTube and Facebook. For all of you joining us out there on TV and radio, we're glad that you join us. Again, no calls, obviously, when we are set up the podcast format the way we are, and it's been really good because we are in a lot of different places, and that's just the way of the world now. Everything predicates us being in multiple places, especially on the weekends, and life rolls on. So it's a good opportunity for us to keep this show rolling on Saturdays and not have too many conflicts. At least a couple of us going to be able to figure out a way to get live here. So again, we'll take your comments throughout the show, and we appreciate it. I'll start with those bowl games yesterday. Again, I'm not going to talk about them a lot, but they were pretty good. I will say this: if you look at Texas A&M and USC, it was an entertaining. I guess the goal is an entertaining game. Does the game really matter? No, it doesn't. I mean, A&M had some guys opted out. USC had guys opted out. If you look at Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, they didn't have really anybody opted out except for a couple. I know Singleton obviously wasn't there for Georgia Tech, but that was a pretty doggone good game for Birmingham to get those two teams in there and the way they played. I know last week Florida got things started off with a blowout win over Tulane. So SEC's kind of a mixed bag. Oklahoma showed up exactly how they've been showing up all year against Navy. They got up 14-0, then gave up 21 unanswered, then came back and tied the game and went for 2 at the end. And but the whole time I was sitting there watching that game, I'm thinking we had 3 or 4 teams on our schedule, Randy, that ended up 6-6 and making a bowl game. Oklahoma, Cal, Vanderbilt. There's one more I know. All of those teams made a bowl because they beat us. And you look at how poor Oklahoma is, how poor Cal was. I watched that Oklahoma game, and I just kept going, that Hawkins kid can't lead a drive down the field against anybody, much less. And then we were up 21-10. It was, to me, the worst loss of the year for Auburn. I hate to bring up old stuff, but I watched them could not generate hardly anything after those first couple of drives where they were able to jump up 14-0. But Navy settled in, just shut them down completely. And I feel for the kid. That kid ain't gonna play next year. They got Mateer coming in, so he's not going to be an option really. He'll be a backup. But that Oklahoma team, pretty bad offensively.
Really bad. And, I think I saw a stat that Lincoln Riley lost 7 games during his tenure there at Oklahoma, and now you're seeing the product that you're getting. I'm sure that they're up in arms on what's going on over there, Brett. But, the takeaway that I've had so far in this bowl season is all of that crying us SEC fans did a few weeks ago is for naught. Because outside of the top teams in our conference, the rest of us are very mediocre when we play other conferences. Auburn's been that way for how long, Brett? I mean, we go play anybody from any conference. Any year we get beat in a bowl game outside of the one Purdue game. And a few of them just ugly losses. So, we sit there and we complain about how hard the schedule is for the SEC and we deserve more teams in, and how in the world does SMU get in and these other teams get in? Well, I mean, Alabama lost to that Vandy team. Did you watch Vandy play yesterday? Is there any part of you that thinks Vandy's some kind of world beater?
They were 6-6.
Alabama lost bad to that Oklahoma team.
24-3.
bad. That is not a good football team. Now, hell, Auburn lost both of them. So I can't say much. I mean, yeah, but my point is that we sit up here and we act like we're greater than now.
Elite.
And we're not elite. Year in and year out, we've had 2 or 3 teams that's carried our league, namely Alabama and Georgia for the most part. But the rest of us, outside of an off year, very mediocre. And when we match up with other conferences, we don't win. Auburn has scheduled how many different home and homes or home and away matchups or neutral site matchups over the year, and we haven't won most of them. Let's go back to the Penn State series. Didn't win any. Clemson won a couple, but lost the majority. Name another one, Brad.
Oregon. We beat Oregon.
We beat Oregon on the road with Bo Nix as a freshman. Mm-hmm. I mean, name some others. The bowl games, Central Florida.
No, our bowl record's been horrible.
It's been terrible. So, I mean, look, I'm all about us sitting up here and touting the SEC for what they deserve, because the SEC has won the championships for the most part. But the ones that have won those championships are a couple of teams. And the ones that have played consistently in the bowl games are a couple of teams. The rest of us, we haven't been consistent. I mean, Auburn can catch lightning in a bottle and beat anybody in the country and have the best program in the country for 1 year. And hopefully we'll be able to have the best program in the country for multiple years if Hugh Freeze can keep this train going and actually start winning football games. But, you know, we're not some world beater conference when we go and match up with mediocre teams and others. And there's no way for us to say that anymore when you keep watching the way that we play in these bowl games. And you can say a lot of kids opt out of our conference because they're wanting to move on, and the transfer portal is the reason that you get a weak bowl season. That's not – everybody else deals with that too. It's not a good enough excuse. You think Georgia Tech?
Do you think it means more to some of these other schools though? Outside, I mean, is it that point?
If it does, that is a poor excuse. If it does, you've said it a million times, because you were the one that spent a lot of money and spent a lot of time.
Well, I saw it firsthand. I saw it firsthand. A team that didn't want to be there.
So if that's the case, and that's a very pitiful excuse for leadership and the conference as a whole. Because you need to sit up here and say, look at that. Look at the bowl season. Don't ever let SMUs in. Don't ever let these other teams in when they don't prove anything. But then when we go to the bowl games, we get beat. And then when anybody else is around the country's 2 eyes see the same thing that we saw with Oklahoma yesterday and Vandy yesterday, you know that they're not a championship contender, those two teams. And Alabama lost to both of them on the road. One of them bad on the road in the last few weeks of the season. We're not talking about week 1, Brett. We're talking about a couple of weeks from the season ending. They lost to that team. So
you and I would like
enough's enough.
Well, you and I'd like to think that, you know, they go into these games and they want to play hard and they want to do all that. I just don't think. I think a lot of it's. I don't think they care. I do, and going off Jason Caldwell, yesterday joining us on Auburn Blitz, he said, he had to look around in Nashville, and he's like, I don't even know why I'm up here covering this game, because nobody, it doesn't matter. Now, again, that is an excuse, because I would like to think that every time you get an opportunity to go and play in a football game, that you'd go out and you'd play hard and it would mean something to you pride-wise. But I hate to say this, I don't think that's the case with this generation. I mean, I really don't, man. I think that we live in an entitled society now all the way across the board, where if we don't get the things that we want, then I'm just not going to put forth the effort to do it. And I think, man, I go back to what you just brought up in that bowl game that I went to, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and the New Year's Six Bowl, which they tried to tout that as some, elite thing. But we all knew if you were one of those two bowls that didn't make it into the playoffs, the 14 playoff, that it didn't really mean squat. It was just a label, because you were trying to keep the lore of that bowl, or those couple bowls that were in the rotation. You're trying to give it some prestige it didn't take. Well, Auburn went over there, and I told y'all, I think Auburn's going to show up over here and play Central Florida. That team was dead as a doornail, and I was pissed. And I was pissed that I went over there. It was 9 degrees in Atlanta with a wind chill of negative. But about daggum froze my face off walking to the Mercedes Dome, and then get in there and watch your team that had a great season, by the way, in 17 that fell short of making the 4-team playoff because you lost in the SEC championship game. And you went out there and Central Florida was playing their Super Bowl. And then we decided to wake up in the fourth quarter and go, okay, we're losing to Central Florida. And we maybe we want to play. We tried to make it close, but I left about midway through the fourth quarter to try to get the heck out of there because I'd seen enough. So I think it's a mixed bag. I really do. I want to keep this going. We got to get to our first break on the show here for TV. So we're just getting started here, everybody, on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Yeah, I think it's an excuse.
Yeah, oh yeah, we need to win them.
Absolutely. I'd love for us to go out but I think we've diminished the media and everybody else has diminished these bowls to the point where they don't mean anything. So you get an invite and it's more about, okay, it's a vacation for a lot of these kids. And they just go, well, I'm just going to go over and get how much stuff I can get and go ride some roller coasters and all that. And, we'll go out here and play a game. If we lose, who cares? I mean, it's where it is. Now, I'd like to know what the SEC's record is in playoff games against obviously.
Well, it's because it's the same teams playing in them. I mean, Georgia and Alabama aren't losing a lot.
Right.
And they're beating the brakes.
But the times that Alabama didn't go, the few times they didn't go, they'd go play Utah in the Sugar Bowl and get the doors blown off. I mean,
yeah.
And then they go, I mean, it's like you don't care.
There's a reason that they don't go. If they don't go, it's because they are, I'm not saying middle of the pack, but they're not one of the top teams in the SEC for them to not make it because they've lost a few times that year. And that's only happened a couple of times. So for the most part, they've been in it. And the most part, they've been motivated to go win it. And they've won them. So, I mean, Alabama and Georgia's carried the banner for the SEC for a long. You and I have talked that till we're blue in the face. You take those two teams away from the SEC, we're the same as the rest of them. Because the rest of us are no better than the rest. I mean, we prove it when we match up with everyone. We're no better.
Yeah. I don't know what he bowled. I couldn't believe it when I saw the picture. But that's the only bowl he would have gone to this year, too, is the bowling alley. About like us. Yeah, he made it to Alex City yesterday to take in some bowling. But I'd like for people to – I'd like to live in a utopian society where we go, oh, our team made a bowl game. We're going to go out here and fight for the banner that we tote. I don't think anybody cares, man. I really don't. We have such a non-caring society about most everything now that, yeah, you can go spend all your money and stuff. I mean, Jason brings up a good point. Why would you spend your money going on that trip unless it's just another football game? Now, I mean, look, me and you've been to a bunch of bowls, and we made a great trip out of it when we went to the Outback Bowl that year, man. Had a great vacation, went down a couple of days early, and just had a great time, man. And, I mean, I don't know.
Well, the same reason that you'd go on an away game all the way across the country with a chance for your team to lose. I mean, it's a reason to go. It's a reason to go to spots. It's a reason to have something to do. And
10 seconds.
Hey, it was a good turnout at the Birmingham Bowl yesterday.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Glad that you joined us here on the program. And again, welcome back. Yeah, you were just saying great turnout at the Birmingham in a nasty weather situation, by the way. Nasty weather. But again, two hungry programs that I think their fan bases showed up. And I think it was obviously a great game. I thought you saw two teams giving great effort. So just your thoughts on that.
Well, Vandy, congratulations. They get Diego Pavia back. They've got pieces enough around to beat teams like us at home. I mean, Diego Pavia didn't beat Auburn.
Right.
Vandy's defense beat Auburn. And Auburn's ineptitude on the offensive side of the ball beat Auburn. I mean, we didn't score but 7 points, and I think Pavia accounted for 150 yards. But the ones that they have won this year, it's been great quarterback play, a great system, really good coach that has those players believing that they can beat anybody. So tip your hat to Vandy. I mean, of all teams to hold the SEC banner so far in this bowl season, it's Vandy right now. And Georgia Tech.
Arkansas looked pretty good last night against Texas Tech, against an 8-4 Texas Tech team.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, well, there's two of the programs in the bottom 4 or 5. I think year in and year out, you would expect to see good play out of.
So, do you think that's part of it? I mean, again, going back to this conversation, you see some of these teams that never get to go to a bowl, like Vanderbilt. Arkansas has been terrible the last 6 years. They get there and they play their rear end off. I mean, Arkansas didn't even have their starting running back to both of them last night, and they put up a ton of points. I mean, the effort just looks – I think some teams are more motivated than others when they get there. If you've been one of those teams that have been at the top and you've been right there on the verge of maybe getting into playoff or 14 playoff and you have a letdown and then your reward is to go to a bowl game and play for pride, I think this generation doesn't care. But I think when you are in a program like Vanderbilt and Arkansas and even Florida, look at Florida. They blew out Tulane. Tulane had a much better season than Florida, and they blew them out because I think one team wants to be there, and maybe one team doesn't so much want to be there, and they're not going to put forth the effort.
Well, the other teams that don't want to be there make the rest of us look bad. I mean, those of us that don't make a bowl game when all you got to do is win 6 games, it makes us look bad. But it really makes you look bad when you go and you play the way that Oklahoma did yesterday. And then you match up that
I don't think they're capable of playing any better. That's the problem.
Well, they were capable enough to beat Alabama by 3 touchdowns.
With Jackson Arnold at quarterback.
I don't. Whoever's at quarterback. I mean,
ain't that Hawkins kid? He's terrible.
Well, they made a decision when they came to Auburn that he was the best option. That's where they felt like Jackson Arnold was. I'm not getting into Jackson Arnold, how great he's going to be.
He's the reason they won the football game, Randy. I mean, you got to look at the reason why Oklahoma won that game against them. He threw like 10 passes. They could not stop them running the football. Now, I can't help it that Alabama's defense sucks so bad that they couldn't stop a single one-dimensional team offensively, but Hawkins didn't play in that game, man. And in Oklahoma, the only reason they won that game is because Jackson Arnold ran for about 200 and something yards. That's really the truth. Now, our excuse for losing Oklahoma, we lost to a much watered-down Oklahoma team at home to a freshman quarterback that sucks. Okay, so I'm not giving us a pass. I'm just saying Alabama lost to a guy that came out there and shoved it down their throat. And we lost because we screwed it up. We were up 21-10, and we can't kick a field goal, and we can't make a pass late in the game to keep the drive going. We throw a pick 6 and just completely blow it. So, but that doesn't take away that Oklahoma team sucks with Hawkins at quarterback.
It doesn't matter who played quarterback that day when the offense doesn't score but 3 points. And I'm making a point. I'm making a point that it's the same as Diego Pavia. You know, we get caught up that the reason that Vandy beat Auburn was because of Diego Pavia being the quarterback there. And he didn't have anything to do with it that day. I mean, he had as pitiful a quarterbacking day as you possibly can have in the SEC and still win a football game. 150 total yards accounted for, and that's rushing yards combined with passing. And Auburn can't score but 7 points at home. And Alabama goes on the road and scores 3 points. Look, that's the deal. You know, I've heard, and I agreed with Luke, and I agreed with other Alabama fans that I think the SEC is by far the best product, and we deserve credit for what we get. But that's only at the top of the conference every year. Every year we go and play, and we got a chance for the rest of us to show everyone how tough the middle part of the SEC and down are. And too many times we do what Auburn did against Penn State the last few years. We go and we not only get beat, we get killed in one of them at home. So, I mean, until you fix that, then you can't win these arguments all the time. You can't win an argument with SMU getting in when you go over to Oklahoma and you play a 500 team that looks as bad as they did in the bowl game and you lose 24-3 3 or 4 weeks ago. I mean, take the argument and go home with it. And so I do think that it's really important the SEC gets together and realizes how important the way that we look outside of conference is going to be in making the 12-team playoff. You're going to have Clemson's and SMU's of the world still sneak their way in when we've got 3-loss SEC teams, because the teams that are in the middle of the pack of the SEC aren't winning games against other conferences. That's my stance on it. I think it's been my stance with you for years on this. Too many times we've had a chance to go over and show how great the conference is, and we lose a lot of times.
I'm definitely not arguing with you on that. I just don't know how much effort's being put into those games, on bowl games. Now, when you're playing in the regular season and you play a home and home with somebody or a neutral site, there's zero excuse. You just screwed up if you lose those games. But at the end of the day, I mean, it comes down to effort. And I think a lot of times that you get in these games that we've diminished and nobody cares. So I don't know. We'll see. Tony said, do y'all think the ACC is going to be like the Pac-12 in a few years? It sure looks like it is heading in that direction. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know where these conferences are going. I don't know really what the situation is going to be. The names don't mean anything anymore. You got West Coast teams in the ACC, and the Big Ten's got 18 teams in it. I mean, the SEC spread out from the Midwest, out west now through Texas and Oklahoma. So I don't know what's going to happen, but the ACC looks pretty weak, top to bottom. Especially when teams like Florida State, the teams that took the banner for you, were so bad this year. I know they're trying to get back and they're revamping their coaching staff and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I don't have an answer. Lord knows I don't have an answer for that. We try to figure all this out, and with the portal and NIL, and college athletics has such a they got so many problems. They don't know which one to start with right now. So let's go ahead and get to our next break here on the show. But everybody stay tuned. More of the Sports Split Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
He accounted for about 200 yards.
231 total yards rushing is what they had rushing. He didn't have all.
He had 131.
He had all of it, but 100.
131 yards, and he had 68 passing. So he had about 200 yards offense against Alabama. Pavia, what was Pavia's numbers? I know he had 130-something passing against Auburn. I don't think he had many rushing against Auburn. I mean, the point is, like, those two quarterbacks, when you only score 3 on one instance and Auburn scores 7, is not the problem with Auburn and Alabama losing those games that we all feel they should have won. It's how pitiful the offenses were for Auburn and Alabama at times this year. I mean, you can't score but 7 points at home against Vandy. Good gosh. I mean, we've hit a new – that was a low.
Right.
Was there anything else that was close to that for you, Brett? 7 points at home against Vandy. And this isn't a 10-win Vandy team. I mean, they won 7 ball games, 6-6.
I'm going to pull up the stats in Oklahoma game.
I think he had a hunt – you talking about for Pavia?
Alabama.
Well, he had 131 rushing, 68 passing.
Yeah,
is what Luke just sent us on.
Yeah, and that running back had 107 on 18 carries. So, I mean, right. I mean, their offense didn't carry the deal, but that was a one-dimensional team that threw 11 passes. He was 9 of 11, which makes it even worse to me. So, when you throw that stat total out there, that's even worse. So the bottom line is, who gives a damn about splitting hairs? They both suck. Okay. I mean, your offense sucked and your defense gave up 24 to a team that was one-dimensional. So that's really the gist of it at the end of the day. And then for Auburn, their lack of offense was the story all year. It didn't make a rip who they were playing, whether it was Vanderbilt or Missouri or California or whoever it was. They never scored enough points. And we knew that the whole time.
Arkansas.
No, terrible. I mean, all of them. I mean, I don't know how many. I don't know how. You just keep on going. So it's pitiful. That was the problem. Auburn played well enough defensively to win every game, and offensively they sucked majority of the year. And if you play halfway decent in any of those games offensively, you win 8 ball games. You had to try to be as bad as Auburn was. You had to lose 3 more games, Missouri, Cal, and Arkansas, and Oklahoma. That's 4. Crap, that's 9 wins where you absolutely did nothing offensively. Didn't do nothing offensively against Alabama. They didn't beat us 28-14. They ain't like they did anything. So, got to fix offense, man. I don't know why they can't get it right. Oh, we got 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Again, I want to thank everybody for being part of the program here and tuning us in each and every Saturday. Just talking about, why these teams are in the situation they're in and, looking at it from a standpoint of what do you got to do to fix it? And look, Luke's texting us and you and I are talking about it. We're splitting hairs here. When you don't play well, you don't play well. And sometimes it's offense, sometimes it's defense. For Auburn, it was offense pretty much the entire year. When you go down and you look at the losses that Auburn had, it's because offense couldn't pee a drop, for lack of better terms. I mean, when you're at home against that Oklahoma team, again, I said it about 2 segments ago. That's the worst loss to me, even worse than the Missouri loss, because you were at home up 21-10 in the 4th quarter against a terrible offensive Oklahoma team that showed no signs of being able to move the ball at all with literally 1 quarter left to play. The momentum was in that stadium. That place was electric. You thought you were going to finally get a big win at home, and we found a way to screw it up. That's the thing that's been so frustrating for Auburn fans.
Well, it has. And the reason we started this, and we'll segue over to something else, but is the lack of really good play out of the SEC so far in this bowl season. And how much is that going to hurt us moving forward? Because the end goal now is to make the 12-team playoff. You start the season as Auburn or Alabama or anybody else, and yes, you'd like to win a conference championship and maybe hang a banner with that. But for the most part, everybody's goal is to make the 12-team playoff. Well, part of the way to make the 12-team playoff right now is to be chosen. And the SEC would like to be chosen over other conferences that have either conference championship games that cost SMU a chance to just kind of sneak their way in, and lack of depth in the scheduling for some of these other teams. But when you go into the bowl season and teams that you lose to, and I don't care if they've got transfers and every other excuse that they can throw out there, but the teams that you lose to by multiple touchdowns go and play as poorly as Oklahoma did yesterday, it shows how mediocre you are at times too. And so you just don't have any grounds to stand on. And
well, let's be honest about it. Like you said, the roster comparisons. I mean, just strictly off roster comparisons for a lot of these teams. And look, Oklahoma didn't have enough opt-out to matter. I mean, they played Navy, and I know Navy had a pretty decent year this year, but they got up 14-0, and they went right back in the daggum tank. And again, I watched that Hawkins kid try to navigate drives, and he came down the field on that last drive. But, man, he's so unsure of himself throwing the ball. Every time he drops back to pass, it's a double, triple pump. And it's like he's so afraid to make a mistake, and then, nothing's on time. Either the guy's wide open or it's a miracle that the receiver catches the football. And he threw some ugly passes too. But at the end of the day, Oklahoma's offense, that's why they went out and got Mateer to hopefully change that situation for them. But it goes to Oklahoma and Auburn are so identical to me offensively that you got 2 head coaches that have had coordinators that left, and you bring guys in, and you're trying to figure out why your offense isn't working, and you can't get it figured out. So now what's the thing to do? You fire your coordinator, because it didn't work it out, or you bench your starting quarterback, to try to figure out what's going to work. When in essence, it's your scheme, it's your coaching, it's your play calling that's killing it. I don't see Oklahoma being much better going into next year. Mateer could come in and work a miracle, because he is a really, really good quarterback. And then how good quarterbacks can change the game. But, if the play calling, somebody made a comment on Auburn Blitz yesterday, Randy. I think it was Ed saying, development of quarterbacks. If the play calling around him sucks and the people around him suck, ain't much you can do with it.
Well, we'll see with Oklahoma. Last year when they had a really good quarterback in Gabriel, they won a lot of football games. They take a drop in quarterback play, and now they go out there and they get the one that all of us would have liked to have in the portal. So tip your hat to them. I'm not saying that we don't want Jackson Arnold. Who knows? I haven't watched enough from him to know if we got a good piece there. I can tell you this: Oklahoma was happy to part ways with him and go get somebody else to take his place. So you can take it or leave it on whether they make the right decision or not. But that's what just happened here. And from the start of the portal season, that's who you wanted was Mateer. Looking
Absolutely.
at that stat total and just watching the way that he plays the game. So
he had the best dual threat numbers in the country.
And looks the part and plays the way that you want to, and big tough kid. So I'm with you. Look, they may have gone out and do what all of us need to do right now. Put a lot of good pieces around a premier quarterback and go and win football games. Miami proved it this year that it was worth every penny that they gave to Cam Ward. And we'll see if Oklahoma does the same, and we'll see if Auburn can actually develop Jackson Arnold past the point of where he has been developed over at Oklahoma right now. We're going to have our chance to do that because he was a big-time recruit coming out of high school. So the same way that we buy into all of the quarterbacks that we get, because I can't remember any in the last 20 years that I didn't have some way that I could spin it that this quarterback that we went and got either in the high school or the transfer portal is not going to be a great player. We're at Auburn. If you have a chance to get signed to go play quarterback at Auburn, I don't care who you are, you can find somebody that you look like and match up skill sets with that's had success. And we've spun it that way over and over and over again. At a certain point, you just got to create development at these positions. And you go and you hire a Hugh Freeze and a Gus Malzahn and a Brian Harsin with hopes that they can develop a guy past the point where they currently sit. Unfortunately, as an Auburn fan, that's not been what we've gotten consistently over the last 20 years. We've had to go and get transfer quarterbacks that come into our program and have taken us to heights that a few times we've never been to. 2010 being the main one with a Heisman Trophy winner. But then you can hit the depths once you don't hit that quarterback right because development's not getting you there. So we can beat this dead horse like we have all week. That's the key part of moving into next year that we all need to watch. And I don't care how much work you do in the recruiting next year, you better develop some players enough to go out there and win football games starting year 3.
Well, namely the quarterback position. I think on the other and all these other positions, I think Auburn's fine. I think it really boils down to one position, and we haven't gotten really good play out of that one position, and it's probably the difference in 4 games. Let's just be honest about it. That's how important that position is. So about a minute left here on this segment. Going back last night, A&M lost to USC 35-31. Auburn wanted Marcel Reed, wanted to look at his numbers. Last night he was 26 of 42, 292 yards, passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, made a couple bad decisions in that game. Made some bad decisions in the Auburn game, if you'll remember. Threw a pick down there, driving the football, and very athletic quarterback, freshman. I thought he came of age throughout the year for Texas A&M, but had 9 rushes for 46 yards. So not a bad effort on the ground for Marcel Reed either. But that was a guy that Auburn looked at. Auburn also looked at Lenore Sellers over at South Carolina. He decided he's from South Carolina. Obviously likes the situation he's in over there, so he decided to stay there. So, all right, let's take another break. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
See Huntsville lost last night?
Do what now?
Huntsville lost last night.
I didn't see it, no.
Bob Jones beat them in the semis of their own tournament.
Wow.
First loss of the year. They were 18-0.
Hard to go undefeated in basketball, man.
It is in some of these areas where the teams are
pretty even.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Huntsville, Birmingham.
Yeah.
You go through that Birmingham City schedule where all these kids know each other real well, and you go undefeated, you're way better than everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Fairfield got their doors blown off yesterday. Were they not the number 1 5A team?
I thought they were. I thought
that they got beat by 40 yesterday.
Good God, 40.
I know it. Yeah.
Who played them?
Oh, who was it? It was a big. It feels. I think it was a 7A school.
You remember it was about like Sacred Heart they come into the finals with a 500 record or losing record sometimes, and you're like, why did this team? And they get there and they blow everybody out because they were going to Atlanta and everywhere else playing these teams that were stacked and loaded.
Midfield will have a season like that because they got to play all of those city schools in Birmingham, and then they drop down to 3 and 4A,
and they just
beat everybody's brains in.
Right. That has a lot to do with it, who you playing, scheduling, and all that.
I told, our JV group went over and lost to Northridge. They say Northridge is. Well, I'd like to know. Who is their head basketball coach, varsity wise?
I don't know, but they've been good for a while. They had we were talking about Northridge. We were going to have to play them if we'd have won last year, I think, in the next round.
Okay.
That's who we were going to have to play. And we were kind of looking at how they had a great record last year. And shoot, man, they've been good for a couple of years now. So
they're playing that system basketball from what I taught everybody I talked to.
Right.
I think they're 13-4 or 14-4 varsity wise. Hey, Luke.
How's it going, guys?
I was telling Brett that Huntsville High lost last night to Bob Jones. That's their first loss in state.
Oh wow!
Bob gave them hell over there. One man show.
Back in the day, hey, when we first started doing this, you didn't want to play Bob Jones.
Oh no.
Oh.
Levi Randolph.
What's the name of those mashed potatoes? Bob Evans. You don't want to play Bob Evans either.
You don't want to play Walter Welburn. None of them. Ben Russell's pretty tough.
Ben Russell can kick your tail now. I'm gonna tell you.
You working today, Luke?
I just came in here because my parents got a house full of people, and so I just came in here to get away from them.
Oh, we got about 20 seconds, guys. That's what a lot of people do this time of year. Get out of the house. All right, 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air for all your heating and air needs in the Lake Martin area. Call on Sunshine Heating and Air. Kevin Kill and his staff do a great job, been part of our programming for a long time. JR Sports Bar and Grill, great food, great atmosphere. Check them out in downtown Alex City. Couldn't do the program without them. Welcome in Luke Robinson. And Luke, glad to have you now on the program, and we'll let you dive into the world of mediocrity of bowl season with the rest of us, and talk about why our teams didn't do better than they did, and come up for excuses for why they should be in and maybe should be in. But anyway, good to see you, buddy. We'll talk a lot of basketball too coming up here in hour number 2.
Yeah, bowl season is really kind of weird. I mean, I still guess I like it. And we all sat around and watched Oklahoma Navy, and that Toledo Pitt game was good.
I'd take your word for that one.
Yeah, well, I think it went into six
overtime.
Yeah, and so one thing that we do, I just put up $20 and let all the kids and anybody else that want to sign up just pick. Don't even pick against the spread. Just pick who you think is going to win, because the spread's pretty much irrelevant. Because you don't know who the heck's playing anyway, so it doesn't matter. And so my 8-year-old daughter has been really invested. Like, oh man, she was started out 3-0, already spent that $20 in her head. Now she's lost the last 3, and she's like, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life anymore. So that's the only thing that can kind of make it fun. And I do think that once you get into the game, once the players start playing, the natural competitive juices kick in, and it'll make, we can say the game doesn't matter. And I think that's true. I also think it's true. It matters to the kids that are playing in the moment. Because, the A&M, I didn't know it until this morning. I went to bed way before this game kicked off. But A&M USC last night, I woke up and saw that USC just made this incredible drive at the end of the game to win it. Oklahoma and Navy. Oklahoma after the 14-0 start, they kind of stunk, and they gave up a 95-yard rushing touchdown to a guy that I'm pretty sure Brett could have caught from behind. I think Brett could have got him. If it was only like a 10-yard start, I think Brett gets him. If it's a 15-yard, he might make it. But nobody in Oklahoma could catch him.
It was crazy.
Maybe that picture of Brett, I don't know if you got the picture that Brett went back and pulled the very first television show that we did together. He sent that out in a text last night. That version of Brett may could have called him. This version 20 years later didn't have a chance of catching.
He could have been on that hoverboard that my daughter got. She got one of those hoverboards and you can put a seat on it, and he probably would have, but he would have had time to go get his hoverboard, come put it on the field, and go get it back. They had to go to commercial break when he got to the 50. That's how slow that guy
I couldn't believe he pulled away for it was like, okay, somebody's gonna grab him here shortly. And he just kept running. I think he was even surprised. He's like, when's somebody gonna tackle me? Can somebody stop me, please? But that was wild.
But that game wasn't. It was kind of fun to watch. I mean, it's disappointing as an SEC fan. I mean, we wanted Oklahoma to win, I think, but and it's disappointing that A&M loses. A&M now, again, this is the narrative. We can say the bowls don't count, but now the new narrative is, and it's not false, that A&M has lost 3 games in a row. They lose to Auburn, lose to Texas. Now they lose to USC. I mean, and they lose to an Auburn team that wasn't very good. They lose to a USC team that's not very good. They do.
I'm not sure how good Texas is.
Well, agreed. I was going to say Texas is in the playoffs, but we're not 100% sure how good they are yet.
Really not. I mean, offensively, they go dead at times. They'll go missing for 2 quarters, and they've got Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers, and the only time you get to see Arch Manning is when he comes out and imitates his uncle the way he runs. That little jog out there, and he'll get to run a wildcat formation offense one play, and then he'll come out. But look, Texas doesn't burn up the woods scoring points either.
No, hey Randy, I want to find that picture. Where'd you?
I've got it. He didn't tweet nothing out. I found it.
Yeah, he's not going to tweet it. He's not tweeting this out. He doesn't want others outside of our text group to see this.
Well, I can say it. I'm not proud. It ain't got nothing to do with me.
Both of us look like we've.
Your hair's changed 14 different colors, man.
Yeah, it's gray.
14 shades of gray. What was
you look like a box of Crayolas if they're all different grays.
Hey, just glad we're here, right? And it's better than alternative, I reckon. Depends on how you look at it. But anyway, bowl season, I think you're right. It is what it is. It's something to pass the time. So that's kind of what we got started talking about. Is I don't know how enthralled some of these teams get with going. You would think that you get another opportunity to play a game, you would be excited about it. But I don't think those kids look at it that way anymore.
And again, some of them will because they don't get to play much during the year.
Like the backup running back for Arkansas that didn't play at all this year because the other 2 opted out. And he got to start last night. Yeah, I'm sure he was thrilled. And he ran the ball well.
Yeah, he ran the ball well. And we probably can put less emphasis on how this is a reflection of a conference or whatever because the teams have changed so much. I mean, shoot, their players opting out of the playoffs. I mean, Penn State's backup quarterback's opted out, and he's already got a new landing spot. And he's like, look, I have no choice because this is where the window falls for me. If I waited until Penn State was out of the playoffs, well, the team that I wanted to go to may have found a quarterback by then. They wanted me, but they wanted me now, and that's where the calendar has put all these kids in an unenviable position. Now, on the surface, it looks like he quit on his team. I get that wholeheartedly. I understand, and I guess technically he did. But his point of view was, look, if I don't leave now, I may not have a spot. So
right.
I may be forced to come back to a place where I know Drew Allar's already said he's coming back. So, I mean, I want to go be a starter somewhere. And again, there's part of me that gets that, and part of me is like, yeah, that's how it works. You bide your time, and then when you get your shot, you go take it and you make the most of it, because that's how we grew up. I mean, that's what, you remember how unheard of it was to start freshman quarterback. I know Jamil Holloway did it and led them to a national championship, I think, but it was so rare for true freshmen to start in any position, much less quarterback. And now, I mean, if you can't come in as a true freshman and just kill it, people write you off immediately. And here's the sad part now. You don't know what you're pulling for, because if he comes in and kills it and you're Mississippi State, about midway through, you're like, hey, slow down a little bit. We don't need you to be too awesome, because somebody will come and poach you.
Right. Well, that's going on with the smaller schools anyway. Let's get to our next break here on the program for TV and radio. Everybody stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
But, Luke, think about how many of these kids are already coming on campus here in the next month compared to, 20 years ago. Like, how many of Alabama's high school commits are starting in January? Or, hell, have they already started?
No,
well, the kid from Michigan is already practicing with Michigan, the quarterback. He's going through drills and stuff.
Oh, Bryce Underwood?
Bryce Underwood.
But he can't play in the bowl game.
No, he can't play, but he's practicing.
My point is they're going to be able to go through spring practice and go through the weight program and go ahead and put 20 pounds on that they probably need, or lose 20 pounds, depending on who you are. How many for Auburn, Brett? Do you know?
20. I know that 21 or 2 of them are going to be in early enrollees.
So all except a few.
I think 3 or 4
are
the only ones that's not going to be there in January.
I mean, that's crazy. So
that's a game changer, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not freshmen rolling in July like we used to talk about when freshmen reported. Man, they're getting there. They've got 6-7 months under their belt in the program by the time the season rolls around.
Is Sedarian in a good spot to go ahead and go off?
He is going to. He will.
Right after football.
Yeah, he's going to go next year. He's going to be an early enrollee.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I was hoping so. I mean,
that's what I've been told.
He's not going to. I mean, I hate it that he can't play basketball, but
his future's in football, man.
I know it. Yeah. Well, good.
Is the window closed for players to enter the portal from Auburn, Alabama? It is. They can they can add players.
But for Alabama, they can get in the portal after the bowl game.
Yep. If you're in the bowl game, you can still enter after, Brett.
I mean, I'm talking. Yeah, no, right. For teams that are still playing in postseason, they have 5 days after their game is over.
I don't remember how many days it is, but it's something.
I think it's 5. I think got 5 days.
That's why, players for Alabama can. Auburn people, I don't think.
Yeah, Auburn's out. I mean, they can gain. Auburn can still get people, but the window's officially closed for any kid to get in the portal from Auburn. All right, just said I didn't realize the Under Armour, the Army Navy high school games were letting. That's what we were talking about yesterday, Randy.
Yeah. Don't get me started on Sedarian and all-star events and all-state teams.
No, let's not go down that road right now.
Absolutely. It's the most. Did you see that, Luke?
No, he didn't make any?
None. None. He didn't make honorable mention.
That's stupid.
Yeah, just don't. Spivey is a year younger, Kyle, than Sedarian. All right, 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air's final segment here in hour number 1. And again, get your comments in. We got them coming in now from several people and asking about the portal window. I knew it, Randy. I knew we couldn't go an hour. We couldn't go an hour without bringing up the P word. The portal it has shown its head again. For Auburn, the portal window's closed for its players to get in, but Auburn can still gain players from the portal. Alabama, once their bowl game is complete, I think it's 5 days afterwards that they have an opportunity to get in the portal, players from Alabama if they want to. Again, you got another window that'll come open in the spring. Luke, you brought up the calendar. Randy, you and I have talked about this calendar. It sucks. They got to fix something here because you see coaches opting out now as far as retiring and getting out because they just can't maintain all of this stuff anymore, and they're just it's not fun for them anymore, so they're getting out.
Yeah, I mean it's it's a problem. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, and nobody's doing much about it. Nobody's trying to stop this or stymie it. And, you hear all the things, look, that some people go, well, this only helps the big boys. And some people go, well, now this evens the playing field. Does anybody really think the playing field's been leveled, by the way? Why do people keep saying that? Because if it's so level, how did SMU get the brakes beat off of them again? I mean, SMU gets beat pretty soundly. I mean, I know they came back against Clemson, but Clemson had a big lead against them. Who's the other team that made it in that, Clemson, for that matter, didn't look very formidable against Texas, did they?
Well, all four of the first round games were terrible to me.
Well, so what level playing field is there? I see a lot of people saying that. I don't think that's the case. I mean, who do you think is going to win it all? I mean, is it Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia? Is that what you think? I think that's what everybody's going to choose one of those teams. That sounds like the same group of folks that it's been. I mean, I don't think that those are four very prominent brands and one of them specifically, Texas, has a boatload of money. Ohio State does too. And Oregon does too. And Georgia does, but not in their leagues, I don't think. But Georgia's got the brand. It's the same group. I don't think everybody keeps saying that. I keep saying it. Well, Saban quit because the playing field's level. The playing field's not level. It's still the same playing field. SMU's not winning this thing. If they started the playoffs over and reseeded them and gave SMU a bye, guess when they'd lose? The first time they played. That ain't a level playing field. So I mean, it's not. So part of me thinks, okay, the portal can help some teams get a little better, but part of me thinks the portal can help good teams get even further away from everybody else. I don't know what's the best thing to do. I know the way we're doing it stinks. I know this sucks. I mean,
I hate it. Randy. Randy, I hate it.
I've said it privately to people. I don't mean to cut you off, Randy, but I've said it privately to people, and I'll say it out loud here, that if I didn't do a Bama podcast, if I didn't do this, it would be hard for me to get involved and get as invested in college anything anymore. That includes basketball, and I love basketball. I know Auburn people love basketball right now, but next year you might not love it so much when all your seniors are gone. You're starting a bunch of new guys you don't know so much, and they're not as successful.
Right. You're exactly
right. There's no growth. I can't watch anybody grow up and get better because as soon as they get a little better, they either want a boatload more money, which costs Alabama somebody else in the portal, or they leave.
It's a problem. There's no leadership standing up and doing anything about it. And Luke, we talked about it early on in the program today. The Georgias and the Alabamas of the world have carried the SEC flag for way too long. And when the rest of, the outside conferences look into the SEC and we try to win these arguments on why the SEC is so strong, there's too many Auburns out there that are mediocre. And when we match up with Penn States and other teams out of conference or on neutral sites, we don't win those games. And so it hurts the Alabamas. It hurts the Georgias that have carried that banner over the years. And there's not enough of us. Now, do I think that it helps a team like hopefully Auburn get back into the fray quicker than we would have, say, in 80s or 90s? Probably so, Luke. because we had let the product get so bad from a recruiting standpoint that if you had to go and build all of that back up through high school recruiting, it would have taken a long time to get Auburn back into the fray. So, but does it get us to the mountaintop? Does it get us up there winning 10, 11 games a year? I don't know about that. It hasn't so far, Brett, outside of an odd and end year that we've been able to put all the pieces together.
Well, I wonder this. I wonder, Randy, if you say that about the recruiting, but would as many people transferred out of Auburn? Now, I don't know.
Well,
out.
I think the whole gist of this conversation is it's not about who it affects better and who it doesn't. It's the system. It goes back to what you and I talked about yesterday, Randy, with this Pavia ruling. It may benefit you every once in a while, but for the most part, the ruling sucks for the game. And I've heard way too many people say exactly what Luke just said, and I've said it and you've said it. If this wasn't our life that we do this and we love, when the people like us, the passion dies, you've got a problem. And one of our good friends that's on another show that I'm on this show all the time, he called me yesterday and he said, man, he said exactly what Luke just said, verbatim. He goes, man, I don't have the passion I had anymore. He said, this is my job. He said, and that's what it's turned into because there is no loyalty. Nobody cares anymore. The players act like they don't care. They're only there for a small amount of time and they're off to the next best thing. And guys, Jim Larinaga said it in his press conference. I know the guy's 76 years old and I know all this stuff. The guy didn't want to stop coaching and he just took a team to the Final Four. But he said immediately after the Final Four, his meeting went very similar to the way Nick Saban's meeting went. They didn't talk about what a great year they had. Every one of them said, well, I'm about to leave, Coach. We appreciate it. Well, what happened? Did y'all not like it here? Oh, no, we like it here, but we got to go test the waters and see where we are. This thing is so destroyed right now, and it's only getting worse because all of us agree nobody's stepping up to try to fix it.
Well, and here's the other way is it's never going back. And the reason is because the old way is the harder way. It's the more difficult way. And even though it does develop people and it does weed out those who can't take it, and probably in a way it would help those, right? There might be a kid out there who's incredibly talented, but his attitude stinks. And he needs to be weeded out and go find and be humbled and find another path in life. That would probably be better for him. Instead, right now, there's always going to be somebody that's going to pick him up out of the trash bin and say, hey, we know how much talent you got. And so you know what that's going to do? Keep his ego way up here. And so he's never going to learn about, hey, falling down and getting back up.
Hey, let's get to break real quick, Luke. Top of the hour break, everybody. For TV and radio, stay tuned. Second hour Saturday Sports Countdown coming up right after this.
I'm gonna do one more segment with y'all.
Okay.
No, but I think we all agree, man. I mean, yeah, Randy, your point's so valid because when you're down, you can grab some pieces that'll help lift you back up. Maybe,
yeah.
But Luke comes back with a counter argument of, well, maybe you wouldn't be in such a daggum hole if you didn't lose all these guys and people stayed the course. And I'd like to know what I said a few weeks ago about the 2-year thing Jason said yesterday. You make some of these players actually stop looking over here when something goes wrong and they want to go, oh, well, I'm getting in the portal because I didn't have a good practice today. You force them to say, man, I'm bought in for 2 years. I need to get my butt in gear or I can just get out. So I think a lot of times they're in the past, in the 80s and 90s, there were probably guys that wanted to leave school, but it ended up working out really good for them because they matured and they got better and they earned a spot. It's just so easy to try to take a way out and look for that golden nugget sitting over here to the side, which is the transfer portal. If you get a little bit of animosity, I'm just going to jump in the portal and leave. It's the easy thing to do.
This. How many bad Junction Boy people have you ever met that went through it all? That went through all the Bear Bryant Junction Boy stuff. And now it's a loaded question because I'd met all of them. I understand. But my question is, the ones that went through all that, it sounds to me like they all turned out to be pretty good dudes that were successful, that were tough-minded, that were fair, that were hard-nosed, that were tough at the same time, understanding of other people. I don't know. I've never heard of a story like that guy was just a horrible dude, like that survived Junction Boys.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the people that have been through the ringer, that were tested, and that were knocked down. And, you know, it's sort of like well,
the portal is so perfect for our society. You look for a way out anytime the going gets tough. You don't want to stick it out and get better. You look for an escape route. So that's what the portal is an escape route for life. Now, the top 0.001% that can go shop themselves around like Caleb Downs, that's different. That's different. Everybody else thinks they're Caleb Downs in their own mind. When they get in the portal, they find out they're not really Caleb Downs. So that's the problem for me. And they need to cut one of the windows out. Cut the damn spring window out. That's stupid. Just if everybody, when the season ends, they want to reevaluate where they are and leave, you get 10 days to do it. And outside of those 10 days, it's over. Don't open up another window after spring practice. I think that's ridiculous.
Go to the Alabama game, Brett. So Mbakwe's playing receiver. What's the story there, Luke?
10 seconds.
Did he go and ask for the chance to play offensively?
I think so.
Yeah, makes sense.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Hour number 2 here on the program. Randy, it'll be your last segment with us before you hit the road, and Luke will stay behind and want to slide over and talk about Alabama's bowl game, the ReliaQuest Bowl, which used to be the Outback Bowl, for all of you out there wondering. Who knows what it'll be next year. But it's a rematch of last year's semifinal game, guys. And so you don't hear the talk about this thing because it's not in the playoffs, but you got two very storied programs taking on one another. Luke, I'll kick it to you first. Well, what's your thoughts on this bowl game?
I feel like Alabama should do very well. Michigan's got some serious opt-outs, some Mason Graham, Will Johnson. I think they're missing 2 running backs. One maybe due to injury, and one's just opting out and going to the draft. So, yeah, I feel like Alabama should do well in this spot. And I feel like it is Jalen Milroe's last game in an Alabama uniform, which some people applaud. Some people wish he'd come back. I'm indifferent. I think he is, Jalen Milroe's done some good stuff for Alabama. People act like he was just a bum. I mean, he was pretty doggone good. When he was bad, he's like the Oklahoma game. He was bad. He was not just bad. He was really bad. But otherwise, I mean, he was pretty good. I mean, his pass he had some nice plays against Georgia, et cetera. Anyway, I think it's his last game in a Bama uniform. I think it's a great opportunity. This is why I do like the bowl game. Like, this is a tough enough opponent where Alabama should get up for it. And tough enough to where if you win it, it'll give you respect. It'll also give Alabama a 10-win season again, and that will continue the streak of every year since 2008. Alabama's had a 10-win season. That's a big deal. And you're also going to have an opportunity to see guys look, Alabama's got 4 receivers that are scholarship guys that can play in this game. Now, Jalen Mbakwe, I think, makes 5. But Alabama either had a bunch of them transfer or some other dudes hurt. Now, if Jalen Hale can be cleared to play and all good, okay, Alabama may have 6, which still ain't a lot of receivers. But Richard Young, the running back, he's going to get to play a lot. He was the 3rd-team guy. Justice Haynes leaves. Now he's a 2nd-team guy. He'll get a lot of carries, which I love because, hey, look, if he comes in and does well, it would make Alabama feel much better about their running back room next year. Everybody's been waiting to see him because when he's gotten those garbage time minutes, he's played pretty well. But maybe he played well because those are garbage time minutes. We don't know yet. So I would like to see another receiver step up besides Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. I mean, I know what they can do, so I want somebody else to. Jalen Mbakwe is probably going to play that spot. He's going to move over to receiver. He's already switched to number 6, which because he couldn't be 9 because that's Richard Young's number. So he's going to be on the offensive side playing receiver. I think he was a guy that was being, I'm only using this word not necessarily as a negative just because that's what it was. He was being tampered with. He was probably offered something to go to another school, and Alabama was able to talk him into staying because they're going to give him opportunity at wide receiver. And I think when he committed to Bama and he understood he was going to play defensive back and he was going to learn from Nick Saban. Well, now he's not learning from Nick Saban. So I think he's like, I might be better at receiver. I might be better with the ball in my hands a lot more often. Okay, so Alabama gives him a shot. And guys like Caleb Odom, et cetera, they've all left. So now he's got the golden opportunity. I'm excited about the game. It's 11 o'clock on New Year's Eve. I'm happy about that because it'll be over with. And then I'm going to the Peach Bowl because my son's going to sit in the media box for Arizona State, and I'm going to go with him and just go watch Arizona State, Texas. And I didn't want this Alabama game to be like a night game or something, and I got to, stay up and watch all that junk, then get up early and head over to the Peach Bowl. So, yeah, I think it's going to be fine. And again, if Alabama were playing Navy, and this is no shot at Navy, I'm just saying if we were playing Navy, it would be harder for me to be up for this game because I'm like, we're in a no-win situation. No win. If you win, everybody's like, of course you won. If you lose, everybody's doing like they do Oklahoma, nana boo-boo. Y'all can't beat Navy. Well, Oklahoma had a bunch of dudes leave, and they still got a bunch of dudes hurt. Oklahoma was just there to, really try and get almost do a scrimmage. Now, they took it seriously towards the end, it seems like. But I'm glad it's Michigan so that if Alabama were to lose, it doesn't look like the worst thing that's ever happened, which is what people are painting Oklahoma Navy or Toledo, Pittsburgh, and stuff like that.
Part of that storyline with Jalen Mbakwe was one that we've been watching for the last few weeks. You do add that in there that I haven't thought about with Nick Saban moving on and how much he's known for, creating great secondary play and being the position that he coaches. And that's always been a sales tool that he's used when he goes out there in the recruiting. But Jalen Mbakwe was one of the best offensive players in the state of Alabama last year. They just snapped him the football at Clay Chalkville in that championship game that we all called with Saraland. Whichever one ended up with the ball last looked like they were going to win. I know KJ Lacey got stopped right there at the goal line to go in and win the championship, but it was Jalen Mbakwe in the drive before that he made some passes, Brett, but he won the football game really with his legs there in that ball game. So he's special with the ball in his hands. He's got a great feel for the game. And, you see the Travis Hunters of the world that make you think that you can go and do that. Now, how many kids can actually do what Travis Hunter's done? Well, not many have done it so far. You can always point to Charles Woodson and a few others, Champ Bailey, and maybe I can keep going down the list of very few others that have been successful playing both sides of the ball. But Jalen Mbakwe is an athlete enough to pull it off. I do think that. And I applaud Alabama for holding on to him, Luke. I bet there was some big-time money being thrown around to get him to move to another school, probably 7 figures to come to a different school because he's got that skill set.
He does, and he's a talent. And everybody's like, why would you pay that much for him? He was essentially a backup defensive back. And that's true. But I think people see the promise and they see what he's capable of. And, there's also some kind of reputational win for stealing somebody from Alabama, quote unquote. Somebody that Alabama wants. There have been some dudes getting the portal. Like for me, and I love Justice Haynes. Nobody was touting Justice Haynes more than me in the summer. But the more I watched, the more I said, it may not be there. It may not be there for him in Tuscaloosa because he had an 85-yard run against Western Kentucky in the first game of the year. And if you take that run out, he averaged about 4.5 yards a carry. And that includes other Mercers and things like that. And he had some number of touchdowns, which doesn't leave you in awe. He had less than 400 yards rushing. It's not like you're like, okay. I mean, his name was big, and his dad, played in the NFL, and he's a good player. And I hope he's transferring to Michigan, I believe. I don't know if he's actually.
Yeah, he's transferring to Michigan.
But congrats. And I want him to go do well. I'm not anti-Justice Haynes. I'm pro-Justice Haynes. But I'm also like, here's my choices. I can either have Justice Haynes knowing what I know, or I can take a shot at the unknown, in whether that's Richard Young or AK Deer or whoever. I'm going to take my shot at the unknown because I feel like I've seen Justice Haynes, and he's going to have to make a gigantic leap to meet my former expectations for him.
All right, we got to get to break, but I will say this real quick before we let Randy go. On that point, and I think, when a team doesn't utilize a guy maybe the way he feels like he should have been utilized, doesn't mean all of a sudden he's not any good. Somebody may have better plans for him. I mean, we're hoping that for Auburn with Jackson Arnold. He came out of high school, was highly touted, had a change in offense coordinator, went to the bench because they were having problems at Oklahoma. Maybe we saw Bo Nix leave Auburn, go to Oregon. We saw Haynes King leave Texas A&M. He's over at Georgia Tech now, killing it. I mean, just because it didn't work out at one place, that's what a lot of these schools try to sell people. They say, man, you can come over here and you can be the player we all thought you could be, and we'll utilize you in the right way. But anyway, that's the world we live in. Randy, we appreciate it, man. Have safe travels. We're going to get out to our next break. Stay tuned. More of the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Bye, y'all. Happy New Year. I'll be on with you Monday, Brett.
All right,
where are you going, buddy?
Gatlinburg. Heading out right now.
Y'all staying in a chalet?
Yeah, somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah. Bye,
just the two of y'all?
No, of course not. No, I mean, there's like everybody that's ever been a part of our families are going.
Is Olivia going?
Every kid that's 10 years and younger are all going to stay in the same.
I wondered what Truett was packing up for this afternoon. I guess he's going on over every y'all.
He'll leave after a few hours. I know. Bye, y'all.
See you, man.
What you doing today?
Not a thing. Nothing.
God, I hope nothing. It's
Man,
going to be nasty.
There's 2 deer standing out in the yard right now. They just standing out here eating.
We went to dinner at Wicker Point last night, like just the whole family, and we're driving back. I saw 2 coyotes, a bunny, 2 deer, a raccoon. I mean, my kids were looking at me like, where in the hell are we? They look like an Uncle Remus cartoon around here.
Oh, man. Got them all coming out, singing songs and whistling. And
little cartoon butterflies floating around.
What are you going to do today? Go talk to the raccoons and the
I'm gonna go
and the deer and all?
I'm going to see if they'll come get me, because if they'll let me live with them for a while, I've about had all the fun I can stand. Y'all mind if I just crawl up in your little hovel over there?
Let me stay a while.
Y'all can curl up around me. We can all get warm.
See, they're just out here hanging out, man. Yeah, I don't know. Look, man, the portal is that, to me, that's the problem with college athletics. You can have a portal window. I don't know why you got to have 2 windows. I don't get that. And to me, the spring one, look, at the end of the season gives everybody, it's kind of like going into New Year's. It gives everybody a chance to kind of reorganize, and I want to change this going into next year. I want to do this a little bit better. I think after you play a season, maybe that's an evaluation time for everybody. But opening it up another window after you've been through a spring with a team, that ain't right. That ain't right, man.
None of this is right.
No, it's not. All right, we got about 20 seconds. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
You got something to talk about?
Yeah, this deer out here. Basketball, man. We're flipping to basketball because we hadn't talked about it yet.
Okay.
I still I want to start there. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Brett and Luke with you for about 40 more minutes here on the show today. Look, we have spent an hour and 20 minutes talking about college football. And I know we're in the playoffs and the bowl season and all that, but Auburn and Alabama may have two of the best teams in the country. I think Auburn may have the best team in the country. I know Tennessee's still up there, but I think it's because they are undefeated. I think it got a lot of people vote that really don't know what they're voting on. But I think
think about this, Brett. I'm looking at ESPN's power rankings. Teams 1 through 8 either are Alabama and Auburn, or they have played Alabama and Auburn, or will play Alabama or Auburn. So, and this is ESPN's power rankings, not the poll, but
right.
They have Auburn at 1, in which I would agree. Tennessee at 2, which I'm cool with that. They have Iowa State at 3. I'm cool with that because
I like that Iowa State team. They're tough, man.
They're tough. They're 10-1, and their only loss is to Auburn. They had an 18-point lead and couldn't hold it. Duke is number 4, which again I'm fine with. Bama at 5, I'm fine with that too. Florida at 6, and they're undefeated. And you say, why shouldn't they be higher? I don't think they've played the same level of competition, and it's not that big of a deal, so I'm fine with them there. Oregon's at 7. That's one of Alabama's losses by 2 points. And then Kentucky's at 8. That's pretty ridiculous. And then you got A&M at 11, who Alabama and Auburn both play. Ole Miss at 13, Alabama and Auburn both play. Same with Oklahoma at 15 and Mississippi State at 16. Houston at 18, Alabama and Auburn both played.
Right.
Back earlier in the year. And then Purdue at 23, who they both played. And Auburn played Memphis. And weirdly, Alabama played Memphis in the last scrimmage before season started. So, I mean, yes, it's hard to you got to give them credit. I've said that forever. It's just like the college football playoff to me. They deserve credit for doing that. If
right.
This were like the college football playoff, Tennessee would be 1 and Florida would be 2. And there's nobody who really thinks that, right? I mean,
right.
You don't think that.
Right. You're exactly right. Here's my point in all this is that we spent an hour and now 22 minutes talking about basically football, and now we're just now getting to basketball. And that just tells you, look, and I love Auburn basketball, and Auburn basketball is a different program now. Now that Bruce Pearl's been here, and, I don't think Auburn's going anywhere. I don't think Alabama's going anywhere with Nate Oates. But that just shows you how much more dominant football talk's always going to be. And why, Auburn's sitting over there with the number 1 team in the country, and Auburn's boosters and everybody else, they're concentrating on how they're going to keep this they're going to improve this football team to get it back to a part where it can compete for championships, because that's what everybody in this state cares about. We all love basketball, and we are as fired up and as passionate about it as anybody in the world, especially when we're playing well, both Auburn and Alabama. But, man, the football side of things drives the bus everywhere. You brought up the stat about Kansas years ago. Somehow, some way, Kansas's football program still brings in more money than Kansas basketball, which I could not believe, because there's no way if that was a trivia question on a game show, I would have got that right. I'd have said Kansas basketball by far, because who cares about Kansas football? But that just tells you why we're in the state we're in and why everything is the way it is. Because let's be honest, and Jason Caldwell brought it up yesterday, we're working our way toward football just splitting away from all these other sports, because you got Title IX and all this stuff that you're having to deal with that nobody's even talking about right now. And if they start putting these players under contracts, which means you're becoming an employee of that school, well, are you going to allow them to be part of the retirement program of those? Because those schools still are funded. They have federal and state money. And when you have federal and state money, Lou, you have to adhere to those guidelines. They don't give a rip about the transfer portal. They don't give a rip about that kind of stuff. You become an employee, and you have to adhere to the regulations and the rules that you and I have to do as far as paying taxes and things like that. So it's such a crazy world, and this football thing probably will split away eventually.
Yeah, and that's a shame, because when it does, it's going to be so much different. And look, I say it's a shame. At the same time, I think, people have killed me. Like, well, what if you don't put SMU and Boise in? Why are they even playing the game? I go, I don't know why they're playing, because nobody. I mean, SMU may be a little different because they have the money and the resources right there in the middle of Texas to make something happen eventually. But Boise, I mean, I don't know why they're playing. I mean, I'm fine with their playing, but when it comes down to it, if only Boise State people think it's right, Boise State gets a bye in this thing. Only Boise State people. There's nobody else who can look at this rationally and say Boise State deserves the same amount of love as an Oregon or Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia or any. They just don't. They don't play the same level of competition. It's two different sports. And I don't care what they do in this playoff. I mean, because they didn't have to go through the same ringer as everybody else. And I know, and people love to say, well, in the NFL, you can have different levels of schedule. You can, but they differ by about that much. They don't differ by much at all, because everybody is kind of on the, what usually separates a good NFL team is one team has an awesome quarterback and another team doesn't.
That's exactly right.
And now one team may have a difference maker by Justin Jefferson. If you got a freakazoid like Justin Jefferson, so be it, or Saquon or Derrick Henry. If you happen to have two of them like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, then, I mean, kudos. But for the most part, they have that much separation. Trying to Boise's roster compared to Ohio State's roster over the last, I'm not going to go that far. Let's go 10 years. Which one do you think had the more NFL players? I mean, which one do you think had more players run sub 4.5 40s? Which one do you think had the strongest players? I mean, it's apples and oranges. It's not the same thing. And basketball can be an equalizer in the sense that it's only 5 players out there at once, and it's a 2-hour game that can go by pretty quickly. And look, if you foul somebody out, you can remove them from the contest. That helps a lot. But football is sort of like, usually the cream's going to rise to the top. I mean, of course, you're going to have upsets. Of course you are. But for the most part, I mean, it's why Alabama has won 10 games, double-digit wins for every year since 2008, because their roster's better than anybody else's.
Yeah, let's get to break. I want to come back and we can talk about it while we stay up on social media, but I want to talk about what Cam Newton said about why – these teams, it's not a cut on these teams, but they're not going to be there. He's basically saying what you said, Luke, about the lines of scrimmage and all. So, all right, up against another break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. Michael wanted to say to you, Luke, that did you tell your family it's portal season? They're all having to move.
I know. I transferred willingly. I said, y'all going to have to offer me a big NIL package. I'm getting out of here.
But Cam Newton, I thought, made some great points. He said, no, I'm not cutting on Boise and I'm not cutting on SMU, but he said, you're asking a team. He said, it's not about your skill guys on the edge. It's about the lines of scrimmage, and there's such a discrepancy up front. He said, you're asking he said, he's talking about Boise. He said, coming up against Penn State, he said, you're asking a team that's going to be forced to throw the football. And he said, can they win throwing it 35 times? He goes, no, they're not going to be able to win because they've been used to turning around and handing it off to Ginty all year. But he said Penn State's not going to allow that to happen. And so he brings up a great point. So do y'all agree that if we consider all those factors, it's not fair for Boise? In football, we really should have different tiers. I've been saying that I have been saying that. How many banners could Boise be flying right now? If they were in there, if you took that group of teams and put them in, Boise'd probably have 5 national championships in the last 10 years. If they were playing in a lower division, because up until now, they haven't had a chance to play for a national title. They've been able to.
I would like relegation. I mean, I'd be fine with that. Where if the bottom moves down and the top of the lower division moves up, and see how that goes. I'm fine with that. But
if I'm Boise and I've had a chance to hang all these, I beat Oklahoma and I've beaten Georgia in these opening season games, and I've won bowl games, and they've probably done a better job than anybody of being a team that has risen to the occasion. But they don't have anything. They don't have anything to show for it, because they know going into the season prior to this 12-team playoff, when they were up there lacing their shoes up in the summer and getting ready, that they had no chance in the old setup of playing for a national title. They just weren't.
Frankly, they should know that they shouldn't.
But that's my point. Why wouldn't you want to play in something where you know you got a chance to win a trophy?
And again, that's what but that is also I hate it and I love it. I mean, I hate it in the sense that, I mean, I see a place in the world for Mercers and even Boise's or whatever. But every time I watch Boise and everybody talks about, man, they're just as good as anybody else, I want to go, no, they're not. Because they don't play Tennessee, Oklahoma, Bama, at LSU, and then at Auburn back to back to back to back. If they had to do that and they went 4-1, I'd stand up and salute them, and I'd say, yeah, you can play with us.
Oh, here we go.
That's the difference.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. I like all of the points that are being made right now. We're talking about Boise and these teams. You know, prior to this 12-team playoff, Luke, as you see Justin's comment we're talking about during the break, do y'all agree that if we consider all those factors, it's not fair for Boise in football? We really should have different tiers, have the top 40th teams in one league. Hey, we've been saying this for a long time. I mean, I said this back when there were only 4 teams. There was no chance of a Boise getting in. You know, we finally got TCU in there, and we saw what happened when they played Georgia. It was the worst national chain. Now everybody goes, well, they beat Michigan to get there. And look, I understand that. But the inevitable ended up happening, and it was the most lopsided, non-interesting national championship game in the history of college football. And what if I were in Boise's shoes, I would want to go and play for a national championship. Now I know they can, but we'll see if they're able to hang with the big boys after, you know, like you said, Luke, you hear all these fans and prognosticators say, well, you know, they're just as good as everybody else. And I'm with you. I don't think so. And Cam Newton said that this past week. He goes, I'm not cutting down SMU and Boise. They just don't have what it takes roster-wise and ability-wise to make a run. He said, you're playing with the big boys up here. He said, this is not what your skilled guys do on the edges. This is what your lines of scrimmage do. And he said, you saw in the SMU game that their lines of scrimmage was the line of scrimmage was not up to par. And, you know, Boise, they turn around and hand it to the best guy in the country, Ashton Jeanty. You know, Penn State's not going to allow him to run the ball 40 times between the tackles and just pound you. They're going to force a team that doesn't like to throw the ball to throw it. Can they win throwing 35 times a game? Probably not. So Georgia's and Texas and Oregon's, they can shift things around. I know the Oregon-Boise State game was close earlier, but on a consistent basis, those teams can change up what they can do in a game to win a game. And it's because their lines of scrimmage can compete with anybody in the country on any given day.
I think that's right. Here's another idea that CBS has out there that I love. I've always said I wouldn't mind doing this with the Sweet 16 in basketball. I know it screws up everybody's bracket and, you know, wah, but I think it's the best way to choose a champion if we're going to do it. They said, let's reseed after the first round. First of all, the first round was so misseeded is a joke. But in the second round, they're reseeding now. Think about these matchups for a second, Brett. Think of how much better. I think this would make everything better, a lot better. So if you reseed, you'd have 1 Oregon against 8 Boise. So Boise would have a chance to redeem that loss. Say, look, we can play with them. Here's your chance. You get to play that same team, who's playing a lot better, by the way. You get to play that same team. Let's see how it goes. Then it'd be Ohio State, Arizona State. Okay, I dig that. Georgia, Penn State. Love it.
That's a rematch of a national championship game.
And Texas, Notre Dame.
Right.
Those are the matchups I'd be a lot more excited about.
I agree with you. I think, everybody's trying to figure out, how when something's not working? When you got all these different ideas out here by everybody trying to figure out a way to make it better.
Yeah.
And again, I know this is the first year and you knew they were going to make some mistakes. And look, we're all human. If you and I would have been in that committee and we were in there arguing our points and, we said, look, when we walk out of this room, we're all going to be united. I may have gotten my way. I may not have gotten my way, but we're one committee. I'm sure there were people in that committee that were not for the way these things got done, but they came up with that system and they seeded these teams the way they seeded them. And this is what we got in year one. Are they going to make adjustments? That's why I came back with you and Randy and I said, and I heard your argument on, well, let's schedule Mercer and McNeese State and all this. I think they're going to overcompensate next year about the strength of schedule. So you don't want to go out there and put a bunch of those teams out there. So in this coming year, they go, well, you played a cupcake schedule. And then you come back and go, well, last year, you took that into credit for those teams and they played these weak schedules like Indiana did. And they got in and I went and scheduled cupcakes. And now you're saying that should cost me. You don't know what a committee's going to do one year to the next. We don't know what the stipulations and the guidelines are. So don't overcompensate one way or the other. Just go do what you've always done and see if they can fix the problems that they have this year.
Yeah, I mean, overcompensating has gotten us where we are with all the players having all the power. It used to be coaches and schools had all the power, and now it's swung so far in the other direction. It's not good to ever swing totally left, totally right.
Correct.
And, so I think you need to have more of a check. And it's better when everybody's got a small gripe. Like the player's like, well, I wish I could transfer anytime I want to. Well, you can't. You're making plenty of money. You're making money now. This is the real world. They're non-compete clauses. And if that's one thing that I would love to see, say, okay, you can't transfer within the conference. Or you can't transfer to a team that your former team plays the next season.
Right. Does the SEC have a rule? I mean, somebody asked that the other day. Now this transfer portal, I think everybody just feels like you can go in. Can you transfer within the conference without sitting out now?
Jackson Arnold did it.
I guess so.
Anybody can. There's no stipulation at all.
So there's zero rules at all. Remember originally when you transferred, the SEC had that rule where you couldn't transfer and play within the first year, if you're within conference, which makes sense because, again, this spring window that opens up, you can be, part of a team and game planning and all this kind of stuff and go, I tell you what, I'm leaving and going over here. And so we're literally 2 months later, you're on a team that probably is on the schedule of the team you were playing with in the spring.
Now, Justin does say you can't do it in the spring SEC to SEC, and I think that is correct. But there's no stipulation on Jackson Arnold.
Okay, all right, hold on a second. What's to say a player just don't go to the courts and say, I don't like that? Yeah, because that's all they've done to this point. So
you just say I threatened to sue.
Well, it's what I'm saying. Somebody said it yesterday on a bowl game. They said, just take it to the courts and you'll win. And that's exactly what Diego Pavia did. That's what all these other players have done to get us. The NCAA, for all rights and purposes, we've been so critical against them because they have made the bed that they've laid in a majority of the time with terrible decisions. But the court system has rendered them completely powerless. Yep. Every time somebody doesn't like a ruling, they just go take it to the court. And the court rules in favor of the player. And then they have no ground to stand on. I know we got to get in the break. We'll keep it rolling on the social media side, and we'll be back on TV and radio right after this. But, I hear you. Right now, until there's a player that goes, well, man, I want to go transfer over, from Texas A&M to Texas. And y'all are telling me, y'all are putting this limitation on me. Why am I having to adhere to this policy in this conference when the NCAA has a rule I can go anywhere I want to go? So they can take it to court. Make sense. I don't know how they can enforce that, man. I really don't.
I mean, think about Aaron Anderson's at LSU, Isaiah Bonds at Texas, Drew Sanders went from Bama to Arkansas. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's my point. I mean, what does it matter if it's in the spring or after the fall?
That's really kind of a stupid stipulation. Unless they're saying, okay, we don't want you to go through spring, learn all their terminology.
That's kind of what I was bringing up. But again, until I'm telling you, there'll be a player that goes, well, man, something happened in spring that I didn't like, and I want to get out of here. And this team over here in our conference is offering me a spot on their roster, and you're saying I can't go over there, and I really want to go.
Same thing with people and say being diagnosed as handicapped for a parking space or for workman's comp or whatever. They go, well, I can't work. Well, that's not really a handicap. Well, it kind of is. I mean, I'm depressed. I'm handicapped.
Right.
Or I have nerve pain that nobody I know is there, but you can't tell. I mean, again, people find loopholes for everything. And it's not to say some of those things aren't legitimate. At the same time, and
here's another thing.
You have a system, people start to abuse it.
Right. And here's another thing, and I'll take Justin's comment as an example. You know what we don't know? What really is out there. He said you can't SEC to SEC in the spring. I'm almost positive. We don't even know. We're not even sure to say, yeah, I know 100% that's the truth anymore, because things have changed so daggum much. We have to go back and look them up and say, okay, can you do that anymore, or can you? I remember you used to couldn't do it, but now I think you can. Now it's only during this window. I mean,
and it did used to be too harsh. You if you want to transfer within the conference, you had to sit 2 years. That's too harsh.
Yeah, that's too much. 1 year's fine.
If I said if you have to transfer within the conference, everybody, no matter the situation, is 1 year. I think that's fair for everybody.
I agree. Once again, to go to another comment, who is having any conversations on any of this to try to make any of this better? And now we spent an hour and 42 minutes talking about college football and about 2 minutes on basketball, and we've got two of the best teams in the country. Again, it's what's driving the narrative, and it's where everybody goes back to. I mean, it's just wild. We'll get to basketball here in the last two segments, I promise. I'm forcing ourselves to do that. 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple segments left in the show today. Again, we appreciate the comments and everything coming in on social media.
I know you want to go to basketball. And
I'm trying.
But I'm going to tell you one other thing. And I don't know that this would have been the case if, say, you had put in Ole Miss or Bama or South Carolina. The viewership for SMU Penn State versus the Texans Chiefs game at the same time. What do you think the difference was?
I think the Texans and Chiefs won out.
They won. 15.5 million for Texas Chiefs, 6.4 for SMU Penn State.
Hey, let me tell you this. Now, my son, his team is the Texans. He loves the Houston Texans. That's, we all have different NFL teams. I love the Tampa Bay Bucks, and a lot of people pick their team to have their reason. Let me tell you what he was watching. He was watching the Texans Chiefs, and Penn State was on, and at the time it was still a decent game there in the first half. There was no chance he was going to watch that Penn State game. And
then you say, okay, Clemson, Texas, that was 15.4 to 8.6 and that game was the Steelers Ravens. So the NFL, that's, again, you want to talk about football, 8.6 million viewers for Clemson, Texas isn't bad, and it would be an astronomical number for a basketball game. And the NFL doubled it up with a Steelers-Ravens, good game. But it's not like it's a playoff game. It's regular season, NFL. And it blew up the doors off Clemson, Texas. Now, again, I'll say this. If you replace SMU with Alabama, Ole Miss, or South Kakalaki, or even Miami, I think that number probably goes up more like 8.6. But it still ain't the NFL number.
It's still probably half.
Yeah.
Which is wild. We don't talk about that as much on our programming because we love college football, and that's what we have here in the state of Alabama. That just shows you, though, outside of Alabama, in these big markets, NFL reigns supreme. And when you put them head to head, I remember somebody saying, I can't believe the NFL and college football are playing these games at the same time. Well, they don't care because even when they go head to head with college football, even in the best scenario in the playoffs, they blow it out. So, I don't know. It's just one of those deals. So I want to talk about some basketball here. We've got a couple segments left. We've got a few minutes left in this segment. Let's see what Henny said. What did he say? Just wanted to hop in here to say that Miami Hurricanes run college football. Sorry, Alabama's a bum team. I don't know about that, Henny. I don't think Miami's running college football.
Y'all might have the runs when it comes to college football, but y'all ain't running college football in so long. Y'all hadn't even been in the playoffs, any of them.
Well, Cam Ward, I will say this. If Cam Ward hadn't have been at Miami this year, probably would have had the same record Auburn had. I mean, and I think Auburn probably would have won 8 or 9 games, and Miami would have been 5-7 because they kept them. I mean, that kept Miami. I mean, he kept them in
officiating crew. The only reason Miami beat Cal is because the officials really screwed that game up towards the end. And the only reason they beat Virginia Tech is the ACC commissioner called and said, that's not a catch. Because that was a catch. And they overturned it very stupidly. And again, that's why I say I hate replay. I'll always hate replay. You can't convince me otherwise. Replay stinks.
And again, we saw yesterday, we had a situation where they went to a replay, and I think the guy clearly caught the ball, and the referee had ruled it an incomplete pass, but the angle was so bad you couldn't see it, so they had to stick with. So all you did was waste time. And again, I think even sometimes there was an interception in a game earlier in the year, in an Auburn game, where it was clear Auburn picked the ball off. It was against Arkansas. It was clear as a bell Auburn picked the ball off. And they came back and said, no, that wasn't it. And then Arkansas ended up kicking a field goal right before halftime. So I'm like, well, why did we sit here for literally 10 minutes and analyze this? And everybody in the stadium saw he picked it off, and then the referees come back and say, no, he didn't. And so they line up and kick a field goal anyway. So it is literally, I'm with you. I mean, and I'll tell you where it's gotten worse, Luke, is in basketball. Stopping to look at these fouls now and see if it's a technical or a flagrant, or to see if, I mean, it really kills the momentum of a basketball game. I mean, because they'll sit there and they'll labor over a play for 3, 4, 5 minutes sometimes, and then they'll come up and go, no, that wasn't a flagrant. No, that wasn't. We want to analyze every single thing in every game now.
Well, and there'll be some people, I know one guy that used to be on our program a lot said, well, it's so important to get every call right. But we don't. We never do. And we never will. Because you might say, well, there was.
If you were getting all of them right with replay, I'd be for it. But you missed just as many.
And you can't. And that's human nature. The same way a quarterback throws a pick, the same way a defensive back lets somebody get loose for a 97-yard touchdown, the same way an offensive lineman misses a block, the same way a defensive lineman misses a tackle. It's human nature. You're going to have some misses. Some misses are worse than others. And we all remember when our team got hosed, and we all cannot remember when our team benefited from it. It's like when they say about playing poker. You remember every bad beat you've ever gotten. You don't remember when you did the bad beating because you're like, oh, that was skill that time. But it's the same way. But we've all had our chance, being screwed up. by the officials some way or another. And so, yes, I'm all for it. Let's put another official on the field. Let's do something else. But see, momentum is the only pure thing left in sports. It's the one thing you literally cannot touch.
Well, you kill it. You kill it with replay.
And when you have it, you've got to capitalize on it in that very moment. And when you don't have it, things are going to go wrong for you. But when it happens, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous because you can't. It's like something in nature that you can't explain, right?
It is.
And we're killing it. We're killing Independent George for Seinfeld people out there.
Well, guess what? We've killed everything else. Might as well kill momentum, right? I mean, that's what we've ruined the worst sport in the history of the planet, college football. We've ruined
You mean the best sport?
What did I say?
You said you've ruined the worst sport.
Well, it is now. So, see, I'm even saying it's the worst sport. Now, yeah, we have ruined the best sport. I'm so used to saying it's terrible now. I guess that just flowed freely out of my mouth. But we've ruined the best sport on the planet with all of this stuff. And
we're
now,
in a toxic relationship with college football now. That's what it is. College football is a beautiful woman or beautiful man, whatever you're down with, whichever gender you want to go with, that has some really bad family members, the NCAA.
Right.
And they're affecting her personality or his personality now. And we keep going back because we're like, they're so beautiful, though.
That's right.
And we need to look around and go, there are other fish in the sea.
That's it. And you don't have all that power, but yet we still get drawn back. All right, last segment of the program for TV and radio. Stay tuned. One more coming up right after this. I lied again. We lied again. We still didn't get to basketball.
You know what? It's like Justin. If Justin's still listening, he'll know. We're like, what's up with that? We can't get to. Oh shoot, what's his name? From Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, the lead singer
that he never gets to.
Stevie Nicks.
No, the guy.
Oh,
Justin, you're listening. Tell me who it is. Every show, he's like, I'm gonna get to you this year, and like he never talks, and he always looks mad. And then he goes, all right. If Justin's listening, he knows.
Well,
something, Justin.
He's typing. I don't know.
I can't tell if he's typing or not. You must have more access.
No, I can't tell. I'm just making it up. Kind of like college football.
All right, well,
let's make up rules as they go. No, but in the
Lindsey Buckingham.
Oh,
Justin just typed.
He just typed. Yep.
He said, hey. Lindsey, I can't get to you this time. I'm sorry. Lindsey always looks mad. Then he goes, it's all right.
Or, we want to make things better, right? So in the I guess the aspect of trying to improve, we make things worse. We'll get it better with more technology, or we'll do this, and all we do is kill it. And we'll make college football, we'll give it more parity with these transfer portal windows, and we'll give way more power to the players by letting them have NIL, or we're going to give them more freedom. None of this has been better for the sport. None of it. Tell me the last rule that was made where we went, man, that's great. That is awesome. Man, what an awesome deal that was.
Well, just think about, it's like I say about everything. I go back to even the mask mandates. I'm like, we take a risk every day we leave the house. If you want, I think people should be able to wear masks wherever they want to. But I still see people wearing masks.
Even in your car by yourself riding down the road.
And again, some people may think I'm wrong about this. You think about airplane flights.
Right.
I'm all for checking everybody and making sure. I don't want any more crashes.
Yeah.
And I don't want any more hostage situations. But eventually you give up every single freedom you have in the name of safety. And there's got to be a
I guess they're just going to make everybody get on the plane naked from now on, just so you ain't got to go through TSA.
I tell you what, I'm bringing me some saran wrap to put down between my seat and my seat.
All right, here we 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown, presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill. They'd have to change it, Luke, from TSA to something else. Hey,
I
ain't gonna say it, but you just go ahead.
Hey, Brett and I, we ain't even getting to basketball now because I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah, I mean, we've lied to everybody for 30 minutes, so I'm not. I mean, why not? Why improve our reputation now? We're just a bunch of liars.
As a guy who travels a lot, we were talking about.
Justin said the same thing. You said bring some wrap for Spirit flights.
If what has ever been made better by more and more rules? Like, look at any of our laws. They're just. I mean, everything's just. I mean, like a book this big.
Nothing.
Look at college football. Look at how we define catches. Look at flights. Look at flight travel. Right where. Yes, I think it's great that we're trying to make sure every flight is as safe as possible. And it should be. At the same time, how many of our own freedoms are we giving up to make a flight to Detroit now? I mean, or to flight to Los Angeles or Phoenix, where you have to get to the airport an hour and a half early. Now, if any later than that, you could be in trouble. Then you have to take just about every deadgum thing out of your bag. Then somebody's going to sift through everything in your bag. Then you got to go through a metal detector and a screener and let somebody pat you down in your nether regions. Then you finally get there, and if you did get there early enough, you get to sit and wait, and it's going to be delayed anyway because they've got some technical glitch on a turn signal that you don't even need in the air, but FAA requires them to have it. So my point is, it's like Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. The second rule is there is no rules. That's how most everything should be. Like, Let's have some very basic rules and use some basic humanity and then some incredibly rational thinking, and then let's go from there. And if something really stupid comes up, we'll try and figure it out, sometimes on the fly. And I know some people are like, I don't want to crash into anything. I don't want to crash either. I don't want my car to crash either. But I'm going to tell you something. My dad's got a car now that it's so sensor driven that if something gets anywhere near it, I mean, it stopped his car and like jerked his neck because it's like, we don't want you to hit something. He's like, that thing's 32 yards away from me. Don't let me at least have an opportunity to crash if I want to.
I was trying to crash and it stopped me. Hey, Justin said exactly what I was about to say. By the time you go through all that and been violated by 10 different people, you could have driven to where you were going. I mean, a lot of times you work that in your mind. I think the rule of thumb is 8 hours. If you can drive somewhere within 6 to 8 hours, it's better to just drive than to go. Because, all right, let's just say for us, if we go fly out of Atlanta, I mean, we got to drive 2 hours, and then you got to be there an hour and a half early, and then you got to wait to get on the plane. And by the time you get up in the air and you land, you could have literally driven there.
No doubt about it. And it's like we just forget about that. And here's the other thing. We get cavity searched for a connection from Birmingham to Memphis, Tennessee. Yet any Joe Smith or Nancy Jones can bring on the stinkingest meal that's ever been had. She brought some tuna fish sandwich she brought from the house. And any jackass in front of us, somebody like me who's 6'5", can lean their seat all the way back.
Yeah, I never do that, by the way, because that's to me so rude. But there's some people that get on a plane, the first thing they do is go, I mean, it is leaned all the way back into your lap.
You know what I do? I stick my knees so far in their back.
I know.
That I'm doing a kidney check. And they look back and they give me a bad look. And I'm like, we're going to both be uncomfortable. This is how this works. Yes, I'm sacrificing my knees so that you hurt. Because, see, otherwise, then I'm just laid back here and I can't even open my tray. I can't open my computer because you've done leaned back into my lap so far. It's been like we're dating for 3 months.
Yeah, I'm with you. Put the knee in the back. No, Justin, I am not driving to Minnesota again. I learned my lesson. At least if I do, I'm going to break it up. I ain't going to do it in one day. I mean, that was about the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. So, all right, we're going to get out here on TV and radio. We'll stay on for a few minutes.
Put Henny's comment up, Brett.
No, I'm not putting Henny's comment on TV. I will here in just a second when we go off TV. I'll put that up there. So, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us on TV and radio. We'll be back with you next week for more Sports Blitz programming. Appreciate it, everybody. Yeah, Henny. I'm going to throw that up there, Henny. Appreciate you, brother.
I guess we do need one rule. Can't cuss on Sports Blitz.
Not on the TV side anyway. But no, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, the plane stuff is, I do take into effect, like, is it worth it to drive versus to fly? Now, we're flying to Washington in a few weeks. So, I mean, that's all. We're going to the inauguration.
Oh, who's going?
Just our family.
Okay.
So, yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Us and 20 million other people.
You going to do that?
Yeah. Let me.
Man, if there is not like an electric slide group dance off with that, I'm going to be disappointed.
There's got to be something going on with that. So, but anyway, we're going to fly. But again, I mean, that's like a 13-hour drive. So, yeah, that's worth it. I mean, you get over there and you fly. It takes an hour and
you
20.
You say that until you get snowed in and you get a 6-hour. I know.
Yeah, I know it. Well,
all right.
To each his own, right? All right, buddy.
Let me portal on back to my house.
All right. Appreciate it, everybody. We're going to get off, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you guys.
See you, brother.